Thanks for staying on with us. As promised, I have with me Imran Basheer. He is the co-founder of EasyEats. This is a company that has just started its operations very, very recently. In fact, because of the MCO, one can argue that EasyEats has actually flourished instead of languishing in the doldrums of economic despair like many other businesses in the country. They deliver food. They use a very fantastic, up-to-date, very snappy kind of app. Works well on both Android and iOS. I have used the app once and have left with mixed results. Why mixed? Because the process of selecting my food choices and the restaurant, in fact the pricing is actually all good and well. But the last mile delivery, I had to wait for 3 or 4 hours to get my food delivered to me. Now, big caveat here, there's a big asterisk going on. This is a new company, and with all new companies, there's going to be hiccups. And that's why I want to get them on, because generally speaking, with the mixed feelings and mixed results that I got from being the first time user of this particular application, I actually was walking away feeling rather satisfied. So let's ask the co-founder, Imran Basheer, whether or not this business has enough legs to stand on and whether or not the MCO is actually a blessing rather than a curse for a company like his. Take a look. Hi Imran, thanks for taking the time to speak with me. Let's do a quick recap. How has your week been? How has your MCO been like?
Yeah. Our week's been pretty eventful. Yesterday we did a lot of Mother's Day specials. We saw sales skyrocketing quite a bit. Our MCO has actually been kind of a positive turn of events for us because we've seen a tremendous increase in delivery. People ordering because they can't get out, obviously, and we've been growing like multiples every month, and now we're at a point where I think we're starting to feel overwhelmed by just doing this by 2 people, and now we're at the start of probably looking to fundraise in the next few weeks.
Okay, so that's the thing, right? Before we talk about some of the bigger things about your business, let's go through with who you are, where you're from, in terms of the business. What is the business all about?
Sure. So my name's Imran Basheer. Born and raised in Shah Alam. So we've been living here for the past like 20 plus years. And I start in my previous life. I was a consulting when I started right out of college. Then started for 2 years, and then decided to move into the operation side of things. I was in HR / kind of strategy or people operation strategy kind of role in IHH Healthcare, which was the parent company for Pantai Hospitals, Gleneagles, and whatnot. So I was there for 4 years, and then decided that maybe corporate life it's not really my cup of tea, because I feel that at some point you can sort of see your life progress, and you can simulate and you can sort of see where the next 10 years is going to go. So I thought of just giving, start up a try. And at that point in time, you could see, the Southeast Asian startup scene was really thriving. You can see the likes of Grab, Kaltim, the Lorry, all, really getting recognition for the great work that they're doing. So I thought, it's about time that maybe, more and more Malaysians took the path of entrepreneurship and give it a go. So I left my job and started EasyEats last year with my co-founder, Thomas Yu. So he and I just started in late 2019. We were a very different business back then. We were just doing pre-ordering for dining and takeaway. But obviously with the MCO, we had to be creative and started doing delivery, and we've seen orders skyrocketing right after we started entering delivery.
So you started in late 2019. Of course, as any startup, it's going to be very difficult, at least for the first few months. But I cannot imagine how things are going to be more difficult these days because of the movement control order. Let's go through the early phases of EasyEats and more so how things are during the MCO.
So at the start, we were just doing pre-ordering for dine-ins and takeaway, because there were so many food delivery startups. and the giants are competing with each other. And then if you recall, late last year there was a lot of price wars going on. So we clearly saw that don't think delivery is something that we want to get into, because we just don't have the capital to compete with the big guys. So we just started focusing on a niche which is more for dine-in and takeaway. So the idea is, instead of you waiting in line for food, the idea is you can order ahead so that when you arrive at the restaurant, the food is ready. And we were getting traction for that, but obviously not as much as we are today, because when the MCO started, we could actually see the sales drop tremendously when in the first week, because we're not doing delivery at all. So we had to make a decision whether should we just persist and ride off the MCO wave and think that after all of this is done, people are just going to go back to their normal lives. Dine in and takeaways are just going to be returning to the normal pace pre-MCO. But I think the more and more we read, we realize that until there is a vaccine, people are not going to be dining out as much as, or certainly not as much as before. So we decided that maybe delivery, the pie is going to get bigger, and there will be more room for another entrant, or maybe a few more even, to enter the space and eke out a niche or gain market share. So that's
the thing is, like, when we talk about your competition, they are well funded, and when I say well funded, they're really well funded. We're talking hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in terms of money ready to spend. And you guys are certainly nowhere near that scale. So how do you intend to scale up your business, considering that your war chest isn't as deep as your competitors?
So that's actually the number one question we get all the time, and that's actually one of the reasons why we hesitated to get into delivery, right? Because we just don't have the war chest, and I don't think investors, have the appetite to actually fund another round of the Uber versus Lyft that you see in the States. So we when we jump into the delivery space, we just thought, like, okay, let's just see where it takes us. And then we don't have the money to do promo codes or free delivery or discounts like crazy, right? Any discounts that you see on the app is actually primarily driven by the restaurants. So we noticed that actually the restaurants are willing to give out all these promos and whatnot, provided that actually you charge the restaurants a very fair rate. I'm not sure whether you're aware, but the competitors out there, they are charging north of 30% per transaction for every order. We charge a lot less than that, and that's because we don't go crazy on these promos, right? We keep a rational mind. We monitor our unit economics very religiously, and that's turns out that we are actually a profitable food delivery company on a per unit economics basis. When you factor that in, that our orders are actually still increasing every day. We've done more in the 10 days of May than we've done the whole of April, without actually burning any marketing promos or like that, right? That goes to show that there is actually the demand for delivery is actually there without the need to actually go crazy on burning money. But having said that, we realize that it's probably a short-term thing post MCO, or when the vaccine eventually arrives, when people can go about their daily lives like normal. We have to figure out a second act, so to speak. So in that sense, that we are doing focusing on more what we're doing right now, which is actually being very customer service oriented to our customers, our riders, as well as our restaurants. And the restaurants are actually slowly like opening us and tell us, hey, can you actually solve these problems that I have in my kitchen, in my software, managing the front house and everything. And we're starting to see like all these opportunities that actually all this can be automated away, or software that's carefully designed can actually help the kitchen flow better, the front of the house communicate with the customers better, and we see a lot of opportunities to vertically integrate ourselves in the F&B space. So I think that will be our second act, and as well as our way to maintain relevance after the MCO phase ends.
The biggest problem with companies like yourself is, of course, the last mile where you have delivery issues. In fact, my first encounter with Easy Eats is, of course, the big problem of the last mile delivery. There's nothing wrong with your app; it's perfect. Nothing wrong with the restaurant; it's also good, everything. But I waited 4 hours to get
Yeah.
my food. And while when okay, I'm happy the food arrived, but this can't be going on forever, right? I mean, you are still young and new; it's okay. But there's such a thing as starting off, and then you want to
Yeah.
scale up. And right now, you're okay with where you are now, but you want to be somewhere where you can't take 4 hours for food delivery. How do you intend to solve that biggest problem with your business, actually, your business model, which is the last mile connection?
Yeah, so we're acutely aware that during peak times, we definitely have to actually be able to expand our supply of riders to actually keep up with the demand. I mean, there's pure numbers of getting the number of riders in our app. That's actually the baseline that we need to achieve, and we're still trying every day to actually get more riders on board. We don't have a shortage of applicants. We actually have a shortage of just ourselves, like our bandwidth of actually recruiting these riders one by one, because we don't want to just like open up, get them in, and not actually on board them, train them and make sure that they handle the food properly and whatnot, right? So there is that bottleneck, which there is. It's a rough phase that we just have to go through in the initial phases. But the idea is, once you get enough supply of riders coming through our door, right, we should be able to keep up with the demand. Having said that, the edge cases will always be there. Like if it's suddenly you see a surge of orders during buka puasa time, and it's raining cats and dogs outside, there is a physical limit in terms of how much delivery you can do in a given hour. So on that basis, software comes plays an important role. Maybe at that point in time, we should just not accept orders, right, and turn away customers. We rather like turn away customers at the point of ordering and tell them, look, we don't think we will deliver to you because we have an abundance of backlog. We would rather just tell you, be honest with you, like, please don't order with us today. We don't think we can fulfill your orders. So that's the part where eventually we'll get to that point. We're still building that feature in our app. We already have some semblance of that. Whenever a restaurant hits a certain number of threshold, we automatically stop receiving orders for that restaurant. But if they're still very crude, we need to be able to refine it further. But the idea is eventually we will get to a stage where we would rather lose business than have a bunch of unhappy customers.
Yeah, that's also another thing. You need to know your capacity before you know you can deliver that kind of thing, right? Your service. I want to focus a little bit about the homogeneity type of your business because right now there's plenty of players like yourselves in the market, and it's very homogeneous. I can order from restaurant A, B, C from whatever service provider that's sitting on my mobile. Any tile I can click and it's going to give me about the same kind of service. How do you intend to stand out from one, I guess, competitor from another, considering that the homogeneity of the product that or the service that you're giving is actually very similar to one another? In fact, some might have even a slight advantage.
Yep.
Integrated wallet, you name it, right? A bunch of other promo codes. They can burn cash and they can just throw, vouchers. How do you intend to split yourself out from the rest?
So the idea is we're not trying to be the largest delivery player out there in the sense that just grab market share of X% and just like dominate and kill the rest. So we would rather be a smaller but a profitable delivery player, in the sense that we eke out a share on our own, right? However big that share is, it's up for debate. We think that it will be a sizable share to remain smaller but much more profitable. Instead of gaining like 60% market share, just gain for like 30-40%, but you're highly profitable in that 30-40% market share. And to do that, we already noticed, like, we have restaurants that are on other platforms, right? But we have customers that are still ordering through our app with these restaurants, despite the fact that we're more expensive, we don't give free delivery and whatnot, right? And we ask them, like, I mean, honestly, why would you order with us when it's cheaper elsewhere and you got these wallets and all that stuff, right? And they said that they appreciated the the customer service that we're giving to them. the personal touch that they know that any orders or whatever they can always just call. A human will always be at the end of the line. Maybe at this stage, it's the co-founder, but eventually, it may not be the co-founder when we have 100,000 users. But the aim is to be able to differentiate ourselves, from the rest to better customer service, just simply a better brand, so that it doesn't become a price thing anymore. Like we're not trying to play that game. Like if you want to go down the path of doing promos or whatnot, like be our guest. It's not something that we want to do, but if we want to be in the business of like serving customers well, they know that they can rely on us, and just be a better overall brand to to be associated with.
Yeah, I also want to touch a little bit about your funding round, because of the fact that you said that you plan to go for funding. What's the plan like? Who are going to be the kind of investors that you're looking for? Is it more ringgit, more dollar, and of course the whole, I guess, appetite of VCs? I guess, are they in the mood to invest when coronavirus is afflicting more than 4 million people around the globe?
Yeah. So we've raised a small family and friends round at the start of the year, and that money was supposed to last us, well into next year. But the turn of events because of the coronavirus actually seen us accelerate the timeline a lot faster. We have now just can't cope with the demand with just two of us. So we're tapping into our existing investors and getting them to introduce to other funds, which we're already lining up the meetings with. In terms of like the appetite for investors to invest, obviously any downturn will cause a scare for a lot of these investors, but we have a couple of things in our favor. Number one is that like we are not in a position where we are financially positioned to raise, in the sense that if we don't raise, we will go out of business. It's the opposite. We are fine growing on our own without, because as I said, we are actually profitable on a per unit economics basis. And number two, our metrics are actually great. It's actually we've done more than in the whole of April, and in April we grew 4x in March. We're going strength to strength, and our cost structure is still like flat, while our revenue is just growing like crazy. So we have a couple of things, tailwinds blowing in our direction. So we hope that these will be something that will be in our favor, in this economic climate.
I wish you all the best. I just want to know whether or not this MCO is a blessing or a curse for your kind of business. What do you think?
I mean, honestly, the human side of it is real. I speak to my riders all the time. I'm in my WhatsApp group with all my riders. And, none of them were, most of them are actually not full-time before this. They were, they had jobs, they were working in restaurants. A lot of them were working in restaurants, in fact. With the closure, they were badly affected, right? So I completely understand the human dimension of it, right? I see it firsthand, and I speak to these guys. I guess the flip side of that is that like we are able to help them in these times, and we are able to actually offer them an alternative to, while they try to get their feet up until the whole economy recovers. We're actually be able to help them get up and running until then. So in a way, the business actually succeeding, but at the same time, like we're also be able to help some of the people who are affected by the downturn.
All right, good. Thanks, Imran. I wish you all the best, and I really hope that you guys succeed, particularly when it comes to times like this. It's not good for most, and it's great that you can still hire. We'll catch you next time, yeah?
Yeah, thanks, Ibrahim.
Right.
Take care.
So I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Imran Basheer. He is the co-founder of EasyEats. Do check out that particular app. Why not download it and try it out at least just once, see how it goes. That's it from me for this week. If you've missed any part of this episode, just head on to AstroAwani.com, look for Notepad over there. You can also watch these kind of episodes on your mobile devices, but you've got to download the Astro AWANI application first before you can enjoy these kind of episodes on your mobile devices. Also, considering that the government has prolonged and extended the conditional MCO to June 9th of this year, that's another further 4 weeks that is lying ahead of us. I hope you will remind yourself and remind others around you to actually stick to the SOP. Remember, it's because of our negligence towards adhering to these kind of SOPs that will result in unwanted tragedies and unwanted events. Exactly what we don't want. So remember, the SOPs are there for your own good use. Adhere to it, stick to it, and I hope it's just going to be for the next 4 more weeks, and then that's it. But without it, we have to remain, diligent in terms of complying. That's it from me for this particular episode. Until next time.